It's just like, yeah, I really love the Champsgiving tournament. I'll try to whip up something together, but you got to let me know in the comments and, be fervent about like, yes, please do a Champsgiving tournament. Otherwise, just gonna skip it. It's not something I really particularly enjoy, and I've kind of ran out of ideas. But hey, whatever. We already did one, but I don't think anybody cares. Let's be honest. I don't think that was really getting a whole lot of clicks. If I am wrong about that, and if anybody listening is just like, yeah, I really love the Champsgiving tournament, I'll try to whip up something together, but you got to let me know in the comments and, be fervent about like, yes, please do a Champsgiving tournament. Otherwise, just gonna skip it. It's not something I really particularly enjoy, and I've kind of ran out of ideas. But hey, whatever. We already did one before about the Grand Slam champions, which that would have been a perfect time to do it now, but whatever. We got to go back and talk about the furthest back since the hot tags last time around, and that was that Chelsea Green won the Women's United States Championship from Julia on SmackDown, and I was a little bit surprised about this. I assumed that this was just a continuation of them not knowing what they're doing with that Women's US title, but to put it on Chelsea, it doesn't give me the pure like joy element of, oh cool, I like Chelsea Green and she was.
Confidence is not a mindset, it's an achievement. In the GMC
and she was definitely a more interesting champion, so this is just an upgrade. It makes me think, wow, they really do not know what they want to do with this title, and they must have reached a point where they just realized we don't care about Julia. And what's weird about this is she ran into the exact same situation as Shinsuke Nakamura, where I guess just you can't cut a promo in English to a certain level equals we're putting the belt on you and we don't need to do anything with you because you're just champion. We don't even need to have you wrestle matches, which is insane to me, because if it's a matter of the promo thing, Julia has a manager, Kiana James. Kiana can talk, and that solves the problem. And you can also get away with somebody that doesn't cut promos by just having them wrestle. But when WWE doesn't prioritize that, and in their mind, there is no way to get a feud going without having an endless sea of promos that are repetitive and really all that not that complicated to begin with, so they don't have the sticking power that they think that they do, they just gave up on Julia. And I crunched the numbers for an article when that had happened. This year with the United States Championship over on SmackDown for the women's division, just atrocious. And it's something like 9 title defenses between all 3 champions for this entire year. And the people that have been involved in that, we've joked about it all the time, are the same people. It's just basically, if you win the championship, you might fight Michin, and if you don't, you just fight the person that you beat, and that's it. Yeah, there's been, now counting this one, 10 women's United States title matches since January. Here's the lineup of that. This is how quick I could read these. Chelsea Green continued to feud with Michin after, she had already had that whole feud going on at the end of 2024. So she fought Michin again in January. Then she fought Michin again in January 31st. Then she fought Michin again in the street fight in March. Beat Sol Ruka, lost to Zelina Vega. Zelina fought Chelsea again, dropped the belt to Julia. Julia beat Zelina again. Julia beat Michin, and then Julia lost to Chelsea. This entire year, 11 months of this championship, and it went Chelsea beats Michin, loses to Zelina, who loses to Julia, who loses to Chelsea. This is the worst championship that they have, and it shouldn't be the case. And I don't think that they gave her the belt to just do the double champion thing that they're doing with Ethan Page. I think that they just reached a point where they realized Chelsea is an interesting character and she can cut promos and she can do that stuff. And Julia, we'll come back to her and figure it out. She at least has this on her record, and that's good enough. That sucks.
Okay, so before I get into what I believe is a report from Fightful, I want to say that the real atrocity here is that she lost the title in under 2 minutes because Chelsea Green did a roll up and put her feet on the ropes, which is just something out of 2009, 2010 WWE, which is not the way any women's division should be booked. Now, granted, moments like this will happen, but the SmackDown women's division in particular seems void of any direction. And then I want to get to Callum, back me up if you saw this. Was it in a report from Sean that said they had no idea what they were doing when they created this title, and they were just like, I guess we'll give it to Chelsea initially because it was like, oh, well, we created it hastily and now we need to give it to somebody. So maybe they're just like, you know what? This is Chelsea's belt.
I can't recall one way or the other about that report. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me just because of the company's track record. But yeah,
For the
I
record,
mean,
I did see that report. Yeah.
Okay, so it probably so likely it is true then. But I guess the big thing about this is not even so much the actual just losing the title to Chelsea Green, because that can happen because Chelsea is a perennially I'd say over, but like you utilize character, similar to a Santino Morella type that isn't someone who's protected super strong in ring, but is constantly featured and so will win championships because of that reason. But it's the nature of the 1 minute plus loss, like how quickly that was, how completely I guess just devoid of any real story. I mean, it's not even like there's been a huge story between these two leading up to this match. It was just, they had a backstage segment, maybe a couple of backstage segments, and then they just had this match, and Chelsea beat her instantly, pretty much, after a load of interference on the outside. So, yeah, I think that, as I said, like as soon as they started pairing Julia with Kiana James, I immediately said that this is a star making thing for Kiana James, it's not for Julia, and I will be correct in that assessment eventually. Like once they finally reach the end goal of this, which is like Kiana being the one that wins the title back from Chelsea rather than Julia, then I think my full circle moment has been completed. But they just it's weird because it's not a case of like the Triple H doesn't know how to book women or men that can't speak English very well, because he did it all the time in NXT. Like Asuka, Shinsuke was like the world champion there. Like you would have thought that he, out of anybody, would understand that you can book around that, and wrestling is a universal language, and we should be past the point of, oh, you don't speak English particularly well, so you have a inbuilt ceiling in any organization, especially one that claims to be, but is the biggest global wrestling organization in the world, one that is trying to spread out into Mexico. AAA has tried to put foothold into Japan and into Europe and all the other places as well, just to say like, oh, you speak English, so you have to go to the back of the line. Yeah, I don't know what the rationale behind this, other than the fact that they just think that Chelsea is a more entertaining character right now, and they, there's always that I'd say like mentality, that vicious circle of like, give someone title, don't push them, properly or don't utilize them in the title well. Oh, we gave you the title and things going wrong. That's clearly your fault. So you have to go back to do it. So you just like continue to repeat that cycle. Just like, oh, we gave them the title 3 weeks ago and they haven't gotten over, or they haven't gotten a bigger deal. I guess they failed and we have to go back. So yeah, I don't know what the long-term vision is for Julia, or whether this is some sort of weird way of leveling her up, because they haven't got a lot of people. I mean, they've just made Jade Cargill the women's champion, so they wouldn't be going heel on heel with that. But so yeah, I guess that they just didn't think that she was working out with the title, or thought that Chelsea would be a better choice right now, or that it's just a one-off thing that Chelsea's going to hold the title for 2 weeks and then drop it back to Julia, and they just did it for, to try and make the television a bit more unpredictable.
Everyone's gearing up for the holidays. The best friend. And the first-timer. The neighborhood hero. And the out-of-towners. And it all comes together in a Chevrolet.
It's Chevy Red Tag. Now well-qualified buyers can get 0% financing on all 2026 Equinox models.
Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
Some people say, well, let's put America and Americans first. There's nothing more first than to put solar energy into our economic footprint in a big way.
Solar brings income to the counties. The money that comes to the county is a gift. It's a gift that you won't get anywhere else without attachments.
Solar energy enriches rural communities to keep it thriving. The investment in rural communities is so critical as government leaders continue to move policy to be able to allow us to incorporate solar energy.
We as elected officials need to embrace new energy sources in our communities. You have to have an economy that's diverse. Solar energy in your community is another way of diversifying that economy.
When the solar company came in with those pilot payments, it really guaranteed a substantial amount of money to the school districts.
Leasing my farm to solar is not going to do anything but benefit everyone. It's unbelievable the amount of money that the school systems in this area will receive from the tax revenue.
Another thing that the solar company pushed for was with our community college. They put in a program to kind of train future employees of the solar facility, which that was a huge help.
That kind of thing is powerful impact when it comes to our schools and the help that our young people can have to grow up in a better world.
They have spent so little time on this women's roster in SmackDown for this entire year. And, if it was just the Julia thing, then I would think, okay, maybe it's not working out the way that they wanted to with Julia. But when you look at Zelina Vega's title reign, they gave the belt to Zelina after a while of her not doing anything. And they waited a couple weeks. There's a certain rhythm to everything. And obviously they don't have to do the exact same thing every single time. You can change it up. Somebody can win a championship on their first night on the show, or they can challenge for, 5 times in a row. And then it's the 6th time they win the title. And it can work in different scenarios. But generally speaking, you typically don't do what you do with Zelina, where it was practically a 2-month period or so, if I remember correctly, where Zelina was can I please just get a title shot? And they were yeah, next week we'll tell you whether or not you will. And then it would be the next week they'd be yeah, we'll talk about it next week. And it was just why are you waiting and stalling? Can you just either book the match or can you not do the match? Why are you teasing that you don't know what you're doing? And eventually when she wins that title match and she gets the championship, they just decided, well, we don't have anything for her afterward. So they did the thing again where it was Julia was then trying to challenge Zelina, and Zelina was like, I want a match with her. And they're like, yeah, but you know what? We'll wait. And go back to previous podcasts and articles where I was calling this out as being like, this isn't doing any good for Zelina or for Julia. Eventually, when Julia gets that match, she's going to win it, and it's going to look like Zelina's a paper champion and just purely transitional, and you had nothing in mind for her. That's what happened. But I was hopeful that it would be like, okay, they were waiting on Julia, then now we're going to get something different. They have been so adamantly against a fucking draft. We haven't had a switch up of the roster in a year. And they are just refusing to change up the lineup. They seem like they only want to move people one by one for particular moments, and that's it. And then they want to just keep everybody else locked down. And then they want to wonder, you know, why is there nothing going on for the SmackDown Women's Division? I don't know. Maybe because you have 7 people on the roster. And that's it. So, of course, Tiffany Stratton's only fighting Nia Jax. You got all these people over on Raw that aren't doing fuck all, and you got these people in NXT that could come up, and you wait until you want one particular match to happen, and then that's it. And we'll talk about the one call-up that happened this time, which is like a couple months after it arguably would have made more sense. But, you know, Chelsea winning this title from Julia doesn't make me think that they have a new game plan. It just makes me think that they felt like it was too difficult to somehow figure out plans for Julia. And if they give it to Chelsea, she'll do all the work for them. And it's not untrue. Like, Chelsea will be able to carry a feud better than Julia and Kiana could without having it scripted for them. But if you never gave them anybody to work with, no wonder they didn't have a feud, because you didn't fucking do anything with them. So I blame the writers over on SmackDown, and I blame the overall WWE management for just not shuffling the deck a little bit more than I blame Julia or Kiana. Kiana did her job perfectly fine. Julia, this is the second championship that she's had that effectively wasn't even a title reign.
What's your favorite app at the moment?
Definitely TikTok. I check it every day.
What's your favorite app at the moment?
TikTok. I could scroll for hours.
What's your guys' favorite apps at the moment?
Well, I'm an Android user, so probably TikTok Lite.
Same. She put me on.
Wait, what's TikTok Lite?
It's literally just TikTok, but more compatible on my Android.
Oh, and it saves data.
It has optimized performance. My favorite thing is that I can scroll offline when I'm flying or have unstable connection.
Yeah, I don't have enough RAM, so TikTok Lite is perfect on my Android phone.
It has the same content as TikTok and the same amount of fun, but just easier and faster.
That sounds perfect. Where can I get it?
Just download it at the Google Play Store.
Reign. I kind of feel like third time needs to be the charm, and I don't know if and when that's going to happen, but she's kind of becoming a bust in my point of view. And she's talented, so it's not just all on her, but they're not figuring this out. And if they don't figure it out soon enough, it wouldn't shock me if Julia ends up being gone from WWE by like the middle or the end of next year, just because they might just be like, we can't figure out what to do with her, and oh well. And then she just, goes to AEW and has matches there. But the United States Championship on the women's division over on Chelsea Green, it's at least not a bad thing that it's on Chelsea, because she's an entertaining character. So maybe they'll finally wake up and figure out some kind of a game plan. There's been lots of championship talk throughout this whole week, and one of the things that started off the episode of Monday Night Raw was John Cena coming out. It's his last show in Boston. They're at the TD Garden, and Dominic Mysterio interrupts, sets up an Intercontinental title match, and John Cena wins the IC title. And that means that, for the first time ever, he is the IC champion, which means that he can cross that off his bucket list. Also means that he now is a Grand Slam champion. That was the one thing that was holding him back from that, because he had held the United States title, of course, 19 years ago, I think it was. And won the tag titles with Shawn Michaels and such. Was it Shawn Michaels and David Otunga, I think, were his two tag team champions.
He's won it with Batista and The Miz as well.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about those two, because they're forgettable. But the world title, of course, John Cena has 17 of those. So he was just waiting on this one missing piece of the puzzle. And I think that this is a great idea. I like the idea that he wins that title. I like the idea that he's Grand Slam champion. I think that Dom played his part perfectly well. I don't really think that changes anything when it comes to the tournament, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I think it kind of just upgrades it, because now that match in December is going to be who potentially beats, they could lose, who could beat John Cena for his last match and also win the Intercontinental title. I think it just upgrades it. Thumbs up all around on my friend.
Okay, first of all, this was the easiest time I've had watching a WWE program in a long time. He kicked off Raw, and he didn't kick off Raw. Actually, Triple H kicked off Raw, and at first I messaged Tony. I was really against that. It was really feeling like another why is stop saying you don't want to be in the spotlight if you're gonna kick off John Cena's last Raw in his hometown. But I do think that they recovered well, because it allowed Triple H to be the one to be the in-between of Dom and Cena and set up the match. I think this was the best use of John Cena in years. I think this is what people wanted to see from him on this farewell run. It was, not only are we playing the hits, but we're hitting every note and we're making history at the same time. He hit the fine speech line, which I think was great, and Dom being the guy to get to do this is perfect. And the ending of the match is an ending that would have pissed anyone off 10, 15 years ago, but as it's his final, one of his final matches on Raw and one of his final 4 matches, I think Dom hitting the frog splash, Cena completely no-selling it, rolling through to pick him up in the AA was absolutely perfect. Thumbs up all around on this segment. I do not believe that the match in December will be for the IC title. I think he's just going to lose it back to Dom, either on Raw next week in the Garden or at Survivor Series. But I'm okay with that. This was a special moment. Again, thumbs up all around. I've seen some people try to claim that the turnaround for Cena has made up for things. I personally do not feel this way. I think this is a great example of what they should have been doing with him, but I personally don't feel that way. I do feel like it's a good thing they're letting him wrestle on Raw in the Boston Garden and in Madison Square Garden, because those are iconic venues. And there's another thing he said during his speech that we will get to after Callum gives his thoughts on John Cena being the IC champion.
I guess I don't really have much to say. I didn't watch it, don't really care to check it out, because why would I? But yeah, I mean, it's a cool statistical thing for him to have won the Intercontinental title and kind of end his career as a mid-card champion after you could argue that despite how many times he won the World Championship, his best moments were all with mid-card titles, like him starting with the United States Championship, the United States Open Challenge, and now this kind of nice little fleeting moment in his hometown to win a championship that he hadn't been able to win throughout his entire career, probably because why would John Cena ever win the Intercontinental Championship at a certain point? So yeah, it's good, a full circle thing, make him a Grand Slam champion. Like, you might as well just check off that box. To me, it doesn't really change anything. Robbie's right in the sense that if he had been having matches with younger people that he hadn't had matches with before and trying different things rather than just constantly playing the hits with people that he didn't need to be going up against, like, yeah, have the match with Cody, but I know some people would like happy about like matches with like Orton and Punk and stuff like that, but you know, if you've only got such a limited number of dates, then do something different. Do something that's like, try and put some other people over, or to have moments with people that you haven't already had in your career. So yeah, I think that's like, it's cool that Dom gets this moment to have Cena's final match in Boston, and yeah, I don't think it hurts him to no longer be the Intercontinental champion. He'd held it for a long time anyway. He's well established on TV as a character. He's already got the Triple H championship as well, and will probably be going into defending that against his dad at some point soon. But yeah, so I think this is probably arguably the one good decision they've made in this entire Cena retirement run.
I think he had to win the WWE title. But I think the execution here, it felt like, okay, this is what people wanted to see. As I said already, I refuse to be one of those people who says, see, they turned it. No, you fucked it up, and I'm not going to let that go. In fact, I watched Unreal because, you know, I got some time in my hands, so I finally got around to just sitting down and watching that. And there's the moment where John tells Hunter, you'd have to really fuck up for page 500 to mess up 499. And not saying that they completely wrecked his entire career, but they really looked at that quote and said,
let's try.
We're going to fucking challenge accepted. We're going to give it our fucking best. Let's see what we can do. I'm interested in the Garden because Boston really showed up for John. I want to see if New York City gives him some of the venom that they typically would, or if they're going to be fully in his corner. And I also want to talk about the fact that something I don't see enough people talking about. The December 13th Saturday Night's Main Event is now a show that will fully feature, in addition to Cena's last match, exhibition challenges, putting NXT stars against main roster stars. And that, to me, gave a lot of credence to those reports of, like, we want to do this pay-per-view called Ruthless Aggression.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm telling you right now, that should be an annual occurrence. That sounds like fun. That, I mean, if you do it right, you can create something really special, and I want to see that. But overall, thumbs up, and I'm not ashamed to say that as soon as that segment was done, I turned off my television. But you know, and but really, really thumbs up segment. I'm glad he's IC champ. Shout out to Dom, and I wish there was more of this in the amount of dates we had.
I think if people were, if they were, I don't know if it's they're interested in it, or if they're just legally not allowed to say these kind of things, or if it's a matter of that they could say it and they don't want to because they think that, you know, if they say this kind of a thing, then it's going to hurt them in some way, you know, the whole corporate speak bullshit kind of stuff. I think if you hooked somebody up to a truth serum machine or whatever, and you said, so what ended up happening with that whole ruthless aggression thing? I think you're right in that there were plans for that. And I think that at the end of the day, the answer for that is actually just well, we recalibrated this whole deal with ESPN, and in the renegotiation stage of, settling this idea of keeping Peacock with the NXT stuff and then doing the Saturday night's main event shows, I feel like that's something where they agreed that they would do Saturday night's main event things, but they can't do main roster pay-per-views. Because if you see like their plans for everything, every single main roster show that's a pay-per-view, a premium live event, whatever you want to call it, there are the ESPN things. The only things on Peacock are the Saturday night's main event shows and the NXT events. And I think just kind of like legally, they might not be allowed to do something where they call it a pay-per-view and call it, Fastlane or Fully Loaded or whatever they would want to call it. I think that they kind of have to make it a Saturday night's main event. And that would also explain why they have 5 of them this year instead of 4.
This is big. This is huge, guys. Odds are you've heard of Raid Shadow Legends. I've been covering the game for years, and I've also wanted this specific champion for years. And now anybody who downloads Raid Shadow Legends today will get one of the best free void legendaries. That means they're very, very hard to get. Players play for years and never can get their hands on this champion in Tawana Rock. This is available for new downloads, new users in Raid Shadow Legends, one of the best support champions in the game. She cleanses, she buffs with increased speed, increased defense, she debuffs spreads, she heals, she does it all. She will change what you're able to do in the game. This is the best time to try Raid Shadow Legends. So download the game, use promo code Desert Queen, and claim your free Tawana Rock.
Instead of 4, because it's just a matter of like, okay, well, we did want to have that extra show, but it can't be on Peacock, and it can't be on Peacock as Ruthless Aggression, and it can't be on ESPN, so it needs to be there, and we just have to make it a Saturday night's main event, which that sucks, because also what they could have done is, if they want to do the whole like in your house method of doing this, they should be naming these Saturday night's main events as something that people can actually pay attention to and like remember. Because nobody's going to go, do you remember what happened in Saturday night's main event 39?
The funny thing is, internally, if you've ever seen like a rundown or like a script, they name every episode of Raw.
Right.
Like, they just don't announce. There's no like title screen at the start of the episode, but they do this. So there's no shame in doing that. Like, if it was called Saturday Night's Main Event Ruthless Aggression or
exactly
whatever, like that's
what they should do. They should have that be Saturday night's main event Ruthless Aggression, because they do have it listed everywhere else as Saturday night's main event John Cena's last match or final match. And they decided that they just don't want to do that, I guess, for some reason. I don't know. It would be useful and helpful and people would remember things easier. Like, they stand in their way a lot of the time. I don't fucking understand the methodology, but I do feel like that if we get a chance to in the future get some kind of an explanation of things, we're going to find out this is across the board. There's always more shit going on than what people want to say. And they always have to wait until afterward to go, well, see, this is actually what was happening behind the scenes. And we didn't want to say anything because of bullshit reason number, whatever. And it's not the way that I would have booked things. It's not across the board what I would have done with John Cena. But at least they did do something good. And this Intercontinental title situation and all, Dom was going to have to lose the title to somebody anyway. So it wasn't like this is like a problem there. obviously losing to John Cena, I don't want to hear anybody be like, oh, they buried him. It'd be like, oh my God, give me a fucking break. But I'm sure that there are some people that are sitting there thinking that because people are dumb. And I just like the idea of crossing things off the list like that. Why not do that? Which makes me then go, can we not wait forever to give the IC title to Sheamus too?
I mean, even Sheamus posted a picture of him showing that when he congratulated Cena, he didn't pat him on the back. He touched the title, and it was like, I wouldn't want John Cena versus Sheamus to be his last match in any regard.
Right.
But I'd like Sheamus to win the IC title from anybody, even if it's John Cena.
I don't want. I'm assuming it's going to be Gunther still, and I'll come back to this in a second about how we can play around that. If it is Gunther, I don't want Gunther versus Sheamus at WrestleMania, but I do want Sheamus to win that IC title. So, if that's the concession that needs to be made in order to give the belt to Sheamus, and if they have nothing better in mind for Gunther, then, obviously there's better scenarios that I would think that they could do instead, but then I wouldn't be too opposed to it. But I don't think Sheamus is, winning this tournament and doing that whole thing. I want to come back to the discussion about the NXT side of things and kind of lump that in with this other part, which is just the mystery opponents that we have going on. WWE is being annoying about this, and they are doing the thing that is the give them an inch type of booking. And actually, before I get into that, I don't necessarily blame them for doing this either. I understand why they were doing it. They're announcing everything in a trickle system of, well, we're going to say 4 people, 2 matches. We're going to do, 2 more matches, whatever. We currently don't know any bit of the bracket, even though we know 2 people who have moved on the bracket. And there are at least 2 people that we don't know who they are, on top of the other 4 people that we don't know. So tomorrow on SmackDown, Jey Uso is facing The Miz, and LA Knight is up against ? Shinsuke Nakamura and Sheamus had their match. Rusev and Damian Priest had their match. So we know Rusev and Sheamus move on, and we don't know if they fight each other next round or if they fight the winners of the Uso Miz and LA Knight blank match, or if they fight the winners of next week's matches from Monday Night Raw, which are another ? person. And wait, what was the whole setup with that again? Now I'm blanking off the top of my head. Solo Sikoa against we don't know yet. And
Gunther and Javon Evans.
Javon Evans and Gunther, yeah. Which then factors into the NXT exhibition side of this whole thing. If Saturday night's main event is going to be roughly the 2-hour show that it was before and that it has been afterward, the last show that they just did in November, they just showed that they don't want to produce more than those 2 hours. They're going to keep it a 2-hour show, even though it's not going to be on NBC. So realistically, they're only going to have maybe 4 matches on this show. John Cena's final match, and then I guess 3 other exhibitions. And not everybody is going to be getting on there. And you would think that they would be singles matches as well, as opposed to some kind of a, tag team match or something. But they could do a tag team in NXT against another tag team, whatever it might be. I don't know. They literally have not explained any of this, and they're keeping it all just to themselves for now. I think that goes to show, even if you weren't expecting it to happen already, Javon Evans is most likely not beating Gunther. And he is probably one of the people that is in an exhibition match because they probably just want to, highlight him. And then everything else is just completely speculation. Who does LA Knight fight? And who does Solo Sikoa fight? I look at those 2 and I think Sheamus and Shinsuke is babyface. Rusev and Priest is babyface heel, but Rusev has kind of been tweenerish a little bit. So they've shown that they are willing to do babyface, but I can't think of a single person that makes any sense on the babyface side of things to go up against LA Knight. Number one, it shouldn't just be somebody on the roster. Some normal person. Like, you know, Jacob Fatu is not returning, and then you book him against LA Knight. That would be the match against Solo, which I think there's a possibility for that. Number two, out of that, whoever you have as a surprise against LA Knight needs to be either a heel that people are a little bit disappointed in, but they can boo, which makes me think Austin Theory, or it needs to be a big enough surprise that the surprise itself, no matter what the outcome is the whole linchpin of everything. And there are only two names that come to my mind for that. If it was an NXT person, I think that they would have announced it. So it's either Joe Hendry, which why would you put him against LA Knight? Or it's Chris Jericho. And I don't know what Jericho's deal is right now. We're going to talk about Jericho in a minute too. I'm leaning towards it's LA Knight versus Austin Theory. And I think Solo Sikoa is going up against Jacob Fatu. What do you guys think?
That's so fucking lame. Like, genuinely, if somebody was like, it's LA Knight against Mr. X, and you fucking bring out Austin Theory, what are we doing? I mean, now I'm gonna say a name, and Calvin's gonna be like that's any more fucking exciting. I'm not saying this person is, but at least it's something. Matt Cardona doesn't work for that company. At least that's okay. We delivered on our promise to give outside names. But to say Austin Theory would be like, hey, remember the last time Cena fucking embarrassed this guy by losing to him? Like, I would have no fucking interest. The problem is, realistically, it would be fun and exciting if one of these people was Jericho. It's not going to be. I think Jericho is at least locked in through the end of the year. If it could be, then the person I put him up against is Solo, because I'm not Bully Ray or Eric Bischoff, and I don't think there's amazing money in an LA Knight versus Chris Jericho feud. But I also think Jericho, the Garden, and he's gonna come back babyface, so put him up against Solo. But I don't think that's happening. Truthfully, I think it'd be silly to say Joe Hendry is a mystery name, just because he basically works for your company. But I'm still leaning towards Hendry and Cardona, just because that warrants the question marks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jacob Fatu just got hurt.
Right.
Gunther's been out longer. Gunther should have been a question mark at that point. But I guess we'll see. You know, maybe there's some like random throwbacks to like John Cena's early career. Like, maybe we're doing a one night appearance of Carlito, or maybe we're doing a one night appearance of Rico, who is John Cena's like early mentor. But
it's Brooks Jensen getting revenge for his father.
For his father, B squared. No, truth be told, I don't know who it's gonna be, but it's a little bit of intrigue, and ultimately, I think the winner of Javon Evans versus Gunther should win the tournament. And I'm not going to belabor the point here, but I do think it should be Javon Evans. It won't be.
Callum, who do you think these mystery people are?
I don't care, Tony. It's like Gunther's going to win the tournament. Who cares who the other people are? Like, it's been decided since probably before this. Well, as soon as this retirement one was agreed to, that Gunther was going to be the person that was going to face John Cena at the end of it. It's pretty much So why are we even stressing ourselves over who these mystery people are?
Do you think that there's any chance that they're like, well, it's too obvious, so let's go with LA Knight?
I mean, maybe, but it's just going to be another old man fighting John
I mean,
Cena.
that would be my
Which,
problem with LA Knight, yes.
get main event Jey Uso on Saturday night's main event to take on John Cena instead. Like, I'd say the bigger issue is not even who these mystery people are, because they'll just be, people on the roster, like, whether it's Sheikah Fatu, it's not even really a slight on any of these people, how good or bad they are in the ring. It just shows the desperate state this company is in, like, how old all of these people are outside of Javon Evans. It's just a bunch of really old people. Like, it's I guess Solo is slightly younger as well, but he's like been pretty flat and underwhelming for most of his main roster run. So, but it's just a very stale upper mid card to mid card bunch of people that are going to eventually have this fight. Well, whoever the final one's going to be, which will be Gunter, is going to have the opportunity to fight John Cena in the final match of his career. But yeah, I think that's more of the bigger issue, is not who these mystery people are going to be, because it really doesn't matter. Gunter is going to win the tournament. It's more just why is your roster like this? Why is this the best you've got to offer for the right to fight John Cena?
I think, and I don't honestly think we'll ever see an improvement there until we start to see a change in overall philosophy of like, okay, it's not a bad thing. We're not being ageist to say you got to get some younger people on this roster, because that's always the defense, is like, oh, well, why are you saying somebody should be put out to pasture when they're 35? And it's like, no, I'm not. I'm saying they shouldn't be presented as a spring chicken.
Well, we're going to find out tomorrow who at least the LA Knight opponent is. I'm going on record saying I am fairly confident it's going to be Austin Theory. And yeah, I think that's going to lead to a lot of people being annoyed.
I'm going to say Cardona, and I'm going to say he loses.
Cardona loses to LA Knight?
To LA Knight, yeah.
Another title changed hands on Monday Night Raw. And not just the Intercontinental title, but hey, you gotta switch some stuff up every once in a while. And they decided that one of the things that they were going to do is have the Kabuki Warriors beat Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. So they are now the women's tag team champions, and they did so through some help from Nia Jax and Lash Legend, who Lash Legend showed up on SmackDown as a means to help Nia Jax beat Charlotte Flair. So Lash is now part of the main roster, and this leads into the War Games setup of everything. And War Games this time around, we don't officially know what the teams are, because they haven't put out the graphics and been like, this is the definitive end of everything. Everybody's announced and we're not going to add any more people or anything like that. But it seems like, at least on the women's side of things, that it's probably locked in the way that it is, of Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, Bliss, and Flair against Asuka, Kairi Sane, Lash Legend, and Nia Jax. 4-on-4. They have done 5-on-5 as the main roster version of War Games for the most part. They've done 4-on-4. They've also done 4-on-4 as like the main thing from NXT. And there have been War Games matches that have been 3-on-3. So it could be any kind of things. And we just saw with Blood and Guts that if you want to, you could do 6-on-6. So they could theoretically throw some other people in there. They could do, maybe they throw in Becky and Maxine. Maybe they throw in Becky and AJ. Maybe they do Nikki Bella, who just turned heel. Everybody saw it coming. Everybody should have seen it coming from a mile away. Just turned heel on Stephanie Vaquer, so maybe they're on opposite sides. I think that they're probably just going to keep it at the 4-on-4. And, Vaquer and Nikki Bella will probably just have a match on Raw or on, maybe at Survivor Series, maybe at Saturday night's main event if they want to drag it out even longer. But I think it's just going to be, title match separate like that. Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez, you're just not in the mix, unfortunately. Becky and Maxine have their title match. That's just going to happen on Raw. So that's, kind of over with already. And the whole Kabuki Warriors winning the tag title thing, it's fine. It's a means to try to boost, now we're really upset because now you cheated and won the titles. I don't think it's really like a game changer. I'm actually kind of a little bit annoyed that Flair and Bliss aren't still going to be the champions, because I think that they were actually doing some pretty decent stuff together. But I guess they've realized Royal Rumble's not that far away and we need to do Flair versus Jade, and, time to split them up.
Well, what if I made Twinkle Twinkle Little Star a hard trap beat? Next, I'm gonna hit you with some super elegant drums. Check this out. Whoa, this is sick. Woo, I'm feeling that one. All right, and last but not least, I'm gonna hit you with some big fat 808. Check it out. Download TikTok to enjoy more exciting music content.
That's the key, is that they immediately foreshadowed. Jade came out on SmackDown, said one word, "I'm that bitch," or one phrase rather, and then immediately stared down Charlotte. So they're telling you where they're going, and I just think it's unfortunate that it's coming at the cost of this angle that's been fun for Flair. But at least I'll say they didn't do the thing where they had, Flair turn on Bliss and do the whole, "I'm the queen and you were holding me back." I'm glad that they're seemingly just staying friends.
Well, they're not friends.
Well, yeah. Friend adjacent. But yeah, War Games wise, a lot of people saying Becky, AJ. I don't think so. I don't know. It would be interesting to see, but I don't know if they're gonna do that, because they really haven't mixed it up with all of the rest of the women. You know what I mean?
Right.
It would just be. I mean, you can do that. You can just throw Becky and AJ in there just to say we need some star power and it's War Games, but they haven't done anything leading in that direction, and Survivor Series is 2 weeks away.
Yeah, I don't think that next week when they do the Becky and Maxine match, that they're somehow going to have Becky interact with the 4 women on either side of the War Games match. And then also AJ comes back, and then also AJ interacts with them, and then also they go, and you should join the team. I think ending the show with the 4-on-4 pretty much broadcasts it's 4-on-4. And then everything else is just outside of it. Now, they've done really stupid, lazy, half-assed War Games builds before, and it's been the same when it comes to things outside of War Games, where it's been like, it's Hell in a Cell and it's the week of, and then you're just like, I don't know, these two are against each other in a Hell in a Cell match. Like, these people are in Survivor Series. We've got nobody until the show itself. Like, WWE and AEW and every promotion, like, they run into situations where they either a problem happened that they didn't see coming, or they just didn't bother to put the effort in. So they very well could just have Becky's backstage and she bumps into Rhea and is like, well, now I'm super mad at you. And it's like the fucking most low effort shit that they could possibly do. But I think it's 4-on-4. And Yeah, at least if the Flair and Bliss team is going to lose tag titles, at least losing to Kabuki Warriors means that the Kabuki Warriors are champions. So, Asuka and Kairi are great. They could have lost them to Nia and Lash, and I wouldn't have been super opposed to that. But, in the grand scheme of things, who's going to get you some better matches? It's going to be Asuka and Kairi. But I like that Lash Legend that's coming up, and I like that she's being paired with Nia. It's a team that makes sense, and it's just kind of weird that they did this the way that they did, because they had a built-in feud going. After Evolution, Nia gets eliminated by Lash. Nia gets mad about that, goes and attacks her on NXT, and they have a whole who's the most dominant person. Nia wins, and then they just wait 3 months and go, anyway, we're friends now. They spent so much time going back and forth between, do we want Jada Parker, Lash Legend, or Kelani Jordan to be a heel, and which ones do we want to be baby faces? That they just spun their wheels, and they woke up a couple weeks ago and decided, all right, Lonnie's heel, Lash is heel, Parker's kind of babyface. OTM isn't involved with them anymore. Took them a while. They finally figured it out, but I'm not really liking Kelani Jordan as a heel, by the way. Generally speaking, we got a lot going on with that. Kabuki Warriors winning the tag titles. We got the Women's War Games thing, and we got Lash Legend called up to the roster. Thoughts on any of those, Callum?
Lash Legend one makes sense. Well, I say it's one of those super overdue ones where there's a dozen people in NXT that should be called up to the main roster that just and can help with the depth issues that we talk about, in line with the especially with the Women's United States title picture and all this other, and just the general mid card in WWE. But yeah, it's I guess one is better than none. So, and yeah, she gets to have the honor of being Nia Jax's latest tag team partner, because she basically just runs through one of those every year anyway, so might as well be her for this time around. I think it will be 5-on-5, and to be fair, funny enough, I think it's names that you guys haven't mentioned yet, which I might have mentioned when I was a little bit away for a second, but I think it'll be Tiffany and Jade will be added to the match.
Yeah, they could add those two into there. Yeah, that is true.
Because based on just little subtle hints, well, I say subtle hints, it's as subtle as a hammer to the face when WWE do it, but they've been teasing that they're going to do Jade versus Charlotte at WrestleMania. So you help build that up by having Jade and Charlotte interact in this match, and then you can just help use this to build up a rematch between Jade and Tiffany at Saturday Night's Main Event or something, and then you then you progress to either Charlotte winning the Royal Rumble or an Elimination Chamber or something and fighting Jade for the title.
I'm not sure if they're trying to necessarily tease Flair and Cargill for Mania, but I think that they are looking at this as, we want to do that at least at some point, and we have no fucking idea if Bianca's going to be back in time, so we need that as at least the backup option. And
right.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if that is the WrestleMania match, whether or not Bianca is healed, because they've waited so long for Bianca at this point that maybe you just wait until after Mania for Bianca, just give her some more time, and Jade retains over Charlotte at Mania. Charlotte wins, hopefully Charlotte would win the Elimination Chamber rather than the Royal Rumble. Charlotte doesn't need to win another Royal Rumble, and that's just going to make people pissed if that's the case. Or they figure out another way around it. I don't know, but
why is your phone frozen again?
We have awful connection here, Dad.
Maybe if you delete some apps, the Wi-Fi might work better.
I need all of my apps.
Try TikTok Lite. 18 megabytes. Smaller than a selfie.
Will it even work on slow Wi-Fi?
Works offline. It's faster than a coffee maker.
This is a lot faster.
Saves space, data, and patience.
When did you become the tech expert?
Call me the data sheriff. TikTok Lite. Tiny size, faster video. Enjoyed only on Google Play.
But
I'm gonna say they're basing it on whether or not Bianca's healthy, and I'm going to say if she is, she wins the Rumble. Flair wins the belt at the Rumble, and they do Flair Bianca at WrestleMania.
I don't think there's a chance that they take the belt off of Cargill like that.
You don't think so?
No, not a chance that Cargill loses the title that quick. Because the match is Bianca Jade.
That's true. I don't know. I guess, again, it all depends on Bianca. Because, again, the match doesn't have to be Bianca Jade right away. They can always say, well, let's just get around to Charlotte and Bianca before we don't. And then we can circle back to Jade Bianca once Bianca beats Flair for the belt.
I think their priority is Bianca Jade rather than Bianca Flair. And that it would be, Jade Cargill against Charlotte Flair, either before Mania if they do have Bianca, or they do that at Mania, then Bianca feuds with Jade afterward. But I think that Charlotte losing to Jade, and Jade eventually losing to Bianca is probably where they're going. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe their whole fucking game plan is Julia for all we But we also have the men's War Games match being set up, and this one definitely needs more people. Right now, it's just CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, and Jey Uso against Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, and Logan Paul. Obviously, Logan Paul is replacing Seth Rollins, who would have been in the mix. And then we've got question marks. Do they do 4-on-4? And is it just like Roman Reigns comes in and somebody else, probably Brock Lesnar on the other side? Or do they make it 5-on-5? And if they do, who's the other person? Clearly, LA Knight is not involved in this anymore, and they decided, fuck that guy. After months of him being the thing that tries to hold this together, they unceremoniously just boot him out of the mix. And, Big Jim doesn't matter at all either. Way to show that, he's lower on the totem pole. So Roman's like a pretty much guarantee, I would assume. A lot of people tossing out, well, what if John Cena is involved in there? Cena is supposed to be at Survivor Series.
He's definitely at Survivor Series. So he's either he wrestles a random match on Monday and wrestles Dom at the pay-per-view, or he wrestles Dom on Monday, has an interaction with the Vision, and is inserted into War Games. Like there's no other way around it because he only has one Raw, and he will be at Survivor Series. If it's Cena, then I think it's just you throw in Cena, you throw in Roman, and you still just either probably throw in Jimmy, and it's just, hey, it's the Usos, Roman. Well, actually, is that one too many?
Well, if you throw Cena and Jimmy in there, it's one too many.
then it's just Cena and Roman. Or if it's not Cena, you can always just say, hey, it's Roman and Jimmy. I don't think it's impossible to get LA Knight in there. I just think he's doing this tournament thing, and they probably feel like we overextended ourselves by saying we'd have 16 guys for this instead of just doing 8. But I wouldn't mind either way. I just think this is a War Games of star power on one side and a lopped up Vision on the other because we built everything around Seth Rollins and he got hurt. Silly us.
It is weird if Braun Breaker doesn't have any kind of interaction with John Cena. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say that I have any clear predictions about that because there's just, it's this mix of having this tournament going on at the same time. There's kind of like a lot of your other names that are going to be involved in it. It's trying to interlink them into this storyline as well. They just, there's injuries, another instance of kind of just throwing things all over the place for them. So this is one I can kind of be a bit more sympathetic about them because, you just can't just go into it expecting that Rollins is going to get a serious injury and be like out of commission for this entire situation, and it throws everything else out. I mean, Jacob Fatu's been suffering with injuries, but I assume he probably would have been a key choice to be in this match as well. So
let's pull shards. I've got 3 sacred shards, so we can get 3 epics or a legendary if we're very lucky. Okay, first shard. Nice, we got Melga. She's a top tier epic for revive and support. She casts a shield and removes debuffs. Let's pull another shard. Oh no, this is probably the worst epic in the game. I'll just use him as food to rank up Melga. This is our last shard. Can't get worse than Vildrax. Holy sheep, that's crazy lucky. We got Alice the Wanderer. Alice combines fierce damage with amazing crowd control. She's perfect for campaign, arena, faction wars, a very strong all-rounder. The best part? You don't need to have my luck. You can just get Alice for free. New player, use promo code GETALICE and progress fast.
So yeah, eventually if you just run through, if you just have too many injuries that in a match you might have set up like a month or 2 ago that was going to happen, and then things just blow up in your face, then you just have to make the best of a bad situation. So we'll see what they end up doing, but yeah, I imagine they'll, at the end of the day, they'll just throw some people in, and as long as the big name people continue their storyline progression, I guess you'll be fine.
And for anybody that's saying that, because I'm seeing this around a lot, people are like, well, Drew McIntyre will be on there. Drew was written off TV as suspended because he is filming Highlander. So it would make sense if Drew were on the team opposing Cody Rhodes, but he's not going to be.
Is this where they bring Andrade back?
No, this is where they bring Santos Escobar back. It's the long game, guys.
This is actually just Jericho. It's going to be him. And he's going to have both of his personas, and he's going to be on both teams. And yeah, it's kind of a mess.
So I like that sitting under the learning branch.
Yeah. I like that they brought William Regal in for that split second. And just Adam Pearce being like, okay, well, if you want to make this official, Regal, get in here. He just happens to be backstage, and he's just like, oh, okay. War games. Like, what do you do here? Every once in a while, they ask me to say this word.
It should be, War Games is always fun. Like, I think it's bad that they lean on it, but it is always a fun gimmick. I like you just said, I didn't even think about this, but it would be weird if they don't have Cena do something with Braun Breaker, even if it's just to get a spear. And I think War Games can do that. It also allows him to check off another box. It makes it seem like a grander deal. Oh, Cena's in War Games for his final Survivor Series. But with the Drew thing, I just want to point this out real quick. He really got into it verbally with Aldis. They were throwing out F-bombs in a video that WWE released digitally. And Aldis just had a birthday. And he's only 39, which is like younger than some of the people in the tournament. And it's like, let him wrestle. He could wrestle Drew McIntyre for a one-off match at some point. I wouldn't be against that. But very funny to me that he's only 39 years old.
Still should have been something with that Randy Orton Nick Aldis thing. Like, they teased that a lot. Either they planned on doing something and something happened, or they are completely oblivious to how much they were teasing it, which both could be true. I don't know. But, man, if you like steel cage matches.
Oh, you're getting your fill, baby.
This month is just, we got 2 Blood and Guts matches. We got 2 War Games matches. And also we have an update for the Full Gear is going to have the Smojo and Hangman Adam Page matches, the steel cage match. It's like fucking overload, man. You got to spread these things out every once in a while. And, if you like title matches, then, well, shit, if you're on NXT, it's just title match after title match after title match before Gold Rush. And one of them being Jasper Troy won the Speed Championship from El Grande Americano. That happened. Oh, I guess we didn't really talk about the Nikki Bella heel turn. She turned heel. She's not going to win the title. There you go.
Well, I want to point this out just because I saw poor Sean getting wrecked by the Bella stands on Twitter for simply not even suggesting. He said the truth. He posted a picture of her holding up the women's world title and said she's lost 3 singles matches, and they went to town because they assumed he was speaking negatively when all he was saying is, I would like to see her win things before winning or challenging for a world title. Yeah, she's heel. She's wanted to be heel. She's talked ad nauseum about wanting to face Rhea as a heel. Maybe they shoehorn that in at some point.
She could be somebody Rhea beats. Yeah. Just over the course of the next several months. Sure.
Day 1 Raw or whatever.
Yeah.
I could see it.
That Jasper Troy match, he beats El Grande Americano with, some shenanigans, and the Rayo and Bravo are there and they're trying to help out. They get ejected by ringside. El Grande Americano is trying to load up the mask and he drops it and fumbles, Butterfingers moment. And man, Butterfingers, good candy bar. I gotta get one of them.
Dig into Fazoli's Italian classics. Baked ziti, loaded baked spaghetti, and loaded fettuccine Alfredo. Fresh, quality ingredients in your favorite sauces and toppings, handcrafted to order. The Italian classics, loaded with flavor. Only at Fazoli's.
Gotta get one of them. And Jasper Troy wins. And he cuts a promo later on and he goes, I know I'm the last person you would think of when it comes to speed.
But nobody better lay a finger on my Speed Championship.
And it's like, okay, well, it's the right call to, I think, you're putting this belt on NXT. It should be on an NXT person. El Grande Americano shouldn't just be popping up on NXT. And if you want to give that title to somebody and give them something to do, clearly you don't have plans for that Heritage Cup, because that's just disappeared and nobody's supposed to care whatsoever about it. Like for some reason, Ariana Grace pops up on Evolve this week and is just in the middle of a Nikita Lyons and Mason Holiday match. She just comes out and poses and then leaves. So they have no fucking idea what they're doing with those people. But yeah, give it to Jasper Troy. Give them something to do.
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned this before, it's a great way to rehash the Baron Corbin, winning super quick way, and you also have a championship attached to it. I like gimmick title belts. They're different. It's a fun way to get him more reps in short bursts. This is a thumbs up, generally speaking.
Okay, I'm super invested.
But I mean,
it's speed title in NXT with a guy from LFG. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I barely know who Jasper Troy is. I probably couldn't pick him out of the lineup. So it's
just look for the monster.
You are right. It should be on an NXT guide. You can't just have El Grande Americano popping up if he's doing stuff in the main roster right now. It just feels like if you are making those titles exclusive NXT things, then it should be on NXT wrestlers. So
yeah,
I mean, we're harping a lot on age in this podcast, but a 26-year-old monster, I can get behind that. He's only 26.
Mm-hmm.
Strap a rocket to him.
Well, in fairness, some of El Grande Americano's personas are quite young as well. So
they started off this NXT episode with just, I had made fun of this last week. There's just one more thing that Tatum Paxley needs to do before she feels satisfied, and she's going to be there next week. They start off the episode with the Colleen going, you can't just have title matches. And she's like, I know, but how about we have a title match? God damn it. This is already garbage, this Tatum Paxley title reign. And it sucks because it's fun to see people get some flowers every once in a while, but this story is shit. And they are just, bare minimum bullshit that they're doing. So JC Jane is going to have her rematch at Gold Rush. The roundabout way of doing it sucked, and it's just the most boring shit. The Vanity Project is fully just, Zeta Steel's out of the mix now. She didn't re-sign her contract. They got rid of Bryce Donovan. So 2 people that are solid are not in there anymore. So Jackson Drake and Swipe Right are in Ava's office, and Ava says, all right, well, here's a great build-up for that Evolve title for the men's side of things. We really, really want to spotlight this. So here's your match. And that's it. So Jackson Drake's going to go up against Sean Legacy. Now, Sean Legacy has had multiple appearances, but they have just danced around this idea of him getting a title shot. I think that there's a good chance that he wins the Evolve Championship, especially because Keanu Carver already had his match with Jackson Drake, and Drake retained in a match that wasn't as good as I was hoping that it would be. And Jackson Drake needs a new finisher for sure. I like him, but if you're going to do like a running knee type of finisher, you got to hit the knee. You can't just be doing the type of thing where it looks like you fling yourself somewhere near the person and slap your knee, and that person has to sell that maybe your knee caught part of their shoulder and knocked them out. It's got to be better than that. And then in the same backstage segment, Ava's just like, anyway, moving on. Chelsea Green and Ethan Page, you've got your match that we want to remind everybody about with Joe Hendry and Thea Hale, who Thea Hale now has the, I believe, thing at the beginning of her entrance, which, we were talking about before, with the idea of, can you just give her that gimmick and try to do that? It's not really great, but sure.
You know what I like to imagine? You know what I like to imagine is that Theo wore a blue shirt at the PC.
Yeah.
And somebody just went, haha,
Hey.
you look like a female Joe Hendry.
Oh,
Wait
Joe
a
Hendry
minute.
shirt.
Wait a minute. That's your direction. Like, very silly, but
10 out of 10 friends say you have to go to that new place, which you have 0 time for. Fortunately, DoorDash knows all your neighborhood hotspots. Shake up your dinner routine. Order with DoorDash.
Auto Earn is kind of perfect for how I use Kraken. It automatically allocates my eligible assets into reward programs, and I still have the flexibility to trade or withdraw at any time. Set it once, earn weekly, no stress.
very silly, but whatever. At least they're using her on TV.
She beat Alba Fire. It's,
It's one of these things like they decide to just throw this gimmick on someone, and it's like they can't even get this right because she doesn't even have a surname that has 2 syllables in it, so you can't do the chant with her.
No, it's I believe in Thea, and it doesn't fucking work.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you're gonna give that gimmick to someone, or you want to do this mixed tag thing with Joe Hendry, choose someone with with 2 syllable surname. Or give her another name. It's not like anyone's super attached to Thea Hale anyway. Like, it's the name. Like, call her Thea Hendry now or something instead.
I don't even think they should be doing that as it is. But I like Thea Hale, so
they shouldn't be attaching a like as I said, like in a previous episode, they shouldn't be attaching a gimmick that already has a shelf life that's starting to wear out onto someone else, because it's just going to burn people out even further.
Yeah. And if anything, it'll splash back and make Thea look worse, because it'll be like, is she stealing the gimmick, even though it's like, it's not her call, If they had any question whatsoever whether or not Sol Ruka was actually injured, they finally just said she's, quote, medically cleared. So she's going to have her match with Blake Monroe next week for the NXT Women's North American Championship. And Blake Monroe had her better half was the split personality thing. So, nothing all that interesting.
We're not going to talk about that segment, one of the worst segments of the year type shit. I saw that clip online, and it's like, all right, first of all, that's just Tony Storm. you're just talking to you're just talking to Tony Storm in like this kind of the more broody version of her from like other instances of it, and just the whole thing is she's got a split personality disorder. That's her gimmick, is that she's mentally unstable. I know that's kind of like that's the trope that WWE always falls into, is like the only thing we can do is make women either hot or crazy, and that's kind of the two gimmicks that you work with.
Yep.
So
I'm
yeah,
gonna
I
watch
just think
this segment in real time as Callum talks.
What?
I'm now interested.
I don't know. It's just it is terrible. Maybe I'm overblowing it, but it's just a case of I think that she's someone who, while has undoubtedly has some limitations, she was doing good stuff, and she can do good stuff, and she's a good wrestler. So I don't know why you need to attach so much to this stuff. Do the glamour stuff. That's fine, because that's what she was doing, and that's what you've brought her in for. But now going full blown split personality, is she going to come out like? Is she going to transform in the middle of a match to go from one character to the other at some point? Is that what we're doing? Like, I don't know. It just feels very, very new generation. No, maybe even earlier new generation. It's very much like the Monster of the Month type stuff, because she's a more established character than that. But like, I don't know. Like, I understand the need for gimmicks that aren't just wrestler, but make it at least like human or real. This is just too
Hold
bizarre.
on, I have a question, because I know I haven't watched it in a couple of weeks, but like, when did they full blown establish that she's got a split personality for some reason?
The Jordan Grace
This
thing.
episode. Oh,
That's strange to me, because like
It's
that
all
was
just the like, oh, you want to fight me in that weapons wild crazy cage, whatever the fuck they called it, match. Well, you think that I'm just like the hot chick or whatever. I actually have a dark side, and that dark side's going to come out. And then that became,
but like that was that was a while ago, and that was fully established as just like she was in the cage match with the pink weapons. And how did we get here where she's talking to a completely different version of herself that just wears black? And I just don't know how we got here.
Yeah.
I think we got there because the Bailey story has basically been dropped. So remember,
also,
Bailey was hearing her other voices and whatever, and then it's just become Bailey's kind of more fired up.
Yeah, and also just notwithstanding, like, how do you film this as well? Like in a land where this is somewhat reality based, like she can't actually turn into two people. So how have they even filmed this segment in that regard? Like, did she just like mitosis, like so like that, like cell division? She just turned into another Blake Monroe. Are there two Blake Monroes? Did you have a twin sister that's running around that she filmed this segment with?
Well, I mean,
they used the same camera that they used for McFoley back in the day.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
obviously, this has been done in a much better way, where Mick Foley's three personalities talk to themselves. But
whatever technology they have that you can hear Bailey's inner thoughts is the same way.
As the one where the thing where was it Hulk Hogan couldn't see Ultimate Warrior through the window, or Eric Bischoff couldn't see him through the window, but we could all see Ultimate Warrior in the glass behind him. So it's like this weird thing where we can see everything, but like maybe for the crew that was standing around there, it was literally just Blake Monroe talking to herself, but we, through the magic of the camera work, can actually see the mental vision of what Blake Monroe's looking at.
Yeah, it's whatever like arcane magic they use for how the Undertaker can be put in a casket and then float up through the Titantron into heaven.
or how we can see that Randy Orton is seeing Bob Orton covered in blood due to a hallucination caused by the Undertaker, but then Bob Orton is just there, not with any blood on his face.
Or that we can see that there's snakes and worms and whatever on the ring at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Well, they
It's
didn't hide
the
that one. That was just bad projection.
fucking insanity of what that shit is.
Okay, having watched the segment, my biggest question was just, yeah, how did we get here? It feels like she could just channel a darker side. It doesn't always have to go towards split personality, but that's a fine line to walk, and they've been walking a weird line with her ever since she got there, where it's like, are you just doing Tony Storm? And I know it's easy to compare her to that because that's the storyline she just got out of, but there's the parallels are just there, you know? And the reason I wanted to watch that is because to see if you overblew that, because I watched the knee from Jackson Drake, and I think Tony overblew that a little bit. They clearly set up where you're going for the arm, and he kneed him in the arm because the arm was injured.
It just didn't look like it really would have taken him out. I think like Keanu Carver is so much bigger than Jackson Drake that, yeah, okay, his arm's a little messed up. I don't think that he would be unable to kick out if like that glancing blow to the arm would have been the thing. Yeah. I don't like this Keanu Carver Jackson Drake feud as it's been. And I don't know. But
by the way, also on Evolve, Wendy Chu doing a in therapy storyline. So, you know, WB is just the land of mentally unstable women right now.
At least with that started out, funny enough, with Wendy Chu. She was in an I Quit match, and that was the first thing that she was like actually speaking, was to say I quit. And that was kind of the gimmick around it, was like, well, we never hear her talk, so how is she going to say I quit? She says I quit, now she can talk. And then now she, like, a couple weeks back, she specifically said, AJ Lee says that therapy works, so let me try therapy. So it's like, all right, you at least referenced it, you know? But yeah, that's kind of a mess as it is. But some other updates to Gold Rush that we know now. The lineup for what's going on and the whole plans of what's going forward. Javon Evans and Leon Slater have their tag team match against Dark State next week. Tatum Paxley against JC Jane. Thea Hale and Joe Hendry against Ethan Page and Chelsea Green for the AAA mixed tag titles. Blake Monroe against Saul Roca. That's all the next week lineup. Week after that, Kalani Jordan against Lei Ying Lee and Jordan Grace for the TNA Knockouts World Championship. Kendall Gray is going up against Lainey Reed, which was set up with Zarya is going to go up against Fallon Henley. Fallon Henley had beaten Skylar Ray, who, if you don't know, Skylar Ray is Danny Sikelski from LFG. So Zarya against Fallon Henley for the Speed Women's Championship, despite the fact that Sol Ruka is able to compete, but she just like, I don't fucking care about that title anymore. And then since Fallon's got a title match and JC's got a title match, Lainey's like, well, I want one too. So she just slapped Kendall Gray, and Kendall Gray's like, rah! And then no, they have a match. And of course, Jackson Drake and Sean Legacy, they mentioned. So, you know, between the two shows, there's one show that is very clearly much, you know, a bigger deal. That's next week's. And, you know, the Skylar Ray thing, sure, she wins LFG and she has a match where she loses for her debut, but you want to do the whole story of she fought somebody who's been around for a while and blah, blah, blah. I don't anticipate Dark State is going to lose those tag titles to Leon Slater and Javon Evans, but it'd be kind of fun if they did, because I don't like Dark State. I really think the only titles that are going to change hands for these 2 nights of Gold Rush are going to be, there's a chance that maybe something else ends up happening, but I'm fully expecting it's either going to be Sean Legacy beats Jackson Drake, or it's just the Zarya vacated title thing. It wouldn't shock me if no other belts change hands. Which, after weeks of all these title things, if it ends up being like, and we're going to build up to this big 2-night championship thing and then nothing happens, it's going to kind of fall short.
I am going to go ahead and say there's a chance that Slater and Evans also win, even if they have a short reign with it. Just because, oh my God, for the first time ever, a TNA star and a WWE star are holding NXT titles, you know? So I can see that happening. It's funny, you were doing a thing there where you were talking about Lainey Reed and Kendall Gray, and I said, Jesus Christ, if you don't know these people, it really just sounds like you're saying names with just bland names with zero interest. But
that is what it is, yeah. Because what's Lainey Reed's character? Yeah,
she once tried to step up to the bully and then said, if you can't beat him, join him. I'm a sheep. No, I could see her winning just to give Fatal Influence another belt. But I wouldn't want to take it off of Kendall Gray because I think she's fantastic.
I don't see what everybody's going gaga over her for. She's fine, but like everybody's like, oh man, she's the next big thing. And I'm like, really?
Well, because I think she's talented and she's just getting started. So if she continues on this trajectory, imagine where she'll be in 3 years.
But anyway, Gold Rush is those next 2 weeks. And, you know, the only other thing that happened on this episode of NXT was this very rushed thing at the end. Ricky Saints retained his NXT championship over Trickle Williams in a last man standing match. And then Obafemi popped up. And it was, hey, it's Obafemi at the end of the show. Because they ran out of time. Not that they necessarily seemed like they were planning on doing anything other than, hey, Obafemi's back. But that sucks because I was kind of hoping that Obafemi would have been one of those people to have that like exhibition match on Saturday night's main event and then maybe just transition to the main roster because what else is there for him to do?
Yeah, I mean, he should be Mr. X fighting LA Knight and to just throw him around and then go up against Gunther in the finals. Yeah, I like Obafemi. I was really hoping he'd be back on the main roster, but I'm also still waiting for Tony D'Angelo to get back on the main roster.
Yeah,
where is he?
Luca Cristofino, by the way, completely he's just disappeared as well.
Well, no, he is active as Chelsea Green's lawyer. They just need to put that on screen. By the way, I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes Chelsea Green's lawyer. And if you want to pivot, Kiana James just becomes chief of staff, and now you're just using people around Chelsea to get a bunch of people on the show. But that's better than nothing. And I would prefer that over a guy like Luca Cristofino not working at all.
They got to figure out something with Piper Niven potentially not being back, you know? Which that sucks for her. But like the more news that comes out of that, the more it seems like she might just have like a career-ending injury. So hopefully that's not the case.
Before we get to AEW, I want to talk about the number 2 promotion in wrestling.
Well, that's as good of a transition as you can get because all this TNA stuff, TNA Turning Point is tomorrow. And, you know, there has been nothing going on with TNA unless it's been through NXT. So I'll be doing coverage of Turning Point, but right now, you know, it's 4:30 on Thursday. Impact hasn't aired yet. We don't know any other matches other than Mike Santana and Steve Macklin are up against Frankie Kazarian and Nick Nemeth. Completely pointless waste of a pay-per-view thing. I'm sure that there's not going to be anything that happens on the other sides of the matches that's going to be worthwhile. But hey, that's the great way to capitalize off of your momentum of Bound for Glory, right? Is to just take time off and then go, we got a pay-per-view tomorrow and we're just going to throw some matches together and just, you know, whatever. But according to Chris Jericho, TNA Bound for Glory makes them look like the number 2 company. And I immediately thought one thing in particular, and I'm pretty sure that you guys will agree with me on this. This feels very much like Jericho being like, okay, well, I'm probably leaving AEW, so I want to kind of schmooze a little bit with like TNA and WWE relationship and kind of talk down AEW and all. I say that with the caveat of being, I am not going to be like, oh my God, Chris Jericho's back. This is so great. I haven't been liking what Jericho's been doing. And I also am not feeling that criticism for any kind of pro AEW side of things, because I think that all parties are kind of, you know, they all have their pros and cons. And, you know, it's good for TNA to get that kind of an endorsement from somebody like Jericho. Then again, I don't care what Jericho has to say because hearing what his politics are and everything. And then, that's not going to hurt AEW at the same time. It's not a good thing for AEW for Jericho to leave and to be like bad mouthing the company and whatever. But all this is going to just be a lot of stuff that really doesn't matter, I think.
Hold on a second. I'm going to read this quote verbatim. And apparently this is from Talk is Jericho. So he went on his own platform to make sure to say this. That crowd looked huge. It looked huge. It was like a WWE level crowd. The place was packed. I was watching this, and I'm not saying anything out of school here, but comparing it to watching Dynamite when they were at the ECW Arena, which looked like a Tony Candela taping, I'm sorry, it did. TNA looked like the second biggest company in the world. That was amazing. The presentation was amazing. It looked like a WrestleMania. It really did.
Mania?
That's why I wanted to read the whole quote, because I knew that you hadn't, because you would have focused in on that. It looked like a WrestleMania. It really did.
Maybe one of those were like really badly attended WrestleManias from like the
WrestleMania
mid
11?
'90s.
WrestleMania 11, which was at the Hartford County Civic Center. Yeah, maybe. All right, so there's no doubt in anybody's mind, and there hasn't been for a while, but he's going. Even if he's going to TNA, he's going somewhere else. Because that's a crazy statement. Like, that's a crazy statement. Anyone, whether it's Bischoff, Jericho, Carlos Silva, Shawn Michaels, anyone who says TNA is going to be the number 2 company in North America, let alone the world, that's a crazy statement. Callum, I'm sure you have a lot to say about this.
Well, as I say, he's playing the game that they play, which is he's going back to WWE, and WWE's raison d'etre, or their current status, is to bash anything AEW related and to make almost will into existence TNA being the second biggest company in North America, and continue to put in people's minds that is the case. And so he's just he's going to play the game that's for the people that are paying him the money. So if he will be going from AEW, there's no inclination of him coming back. There was a part of me that thought that he might be, considering his status and in the legacy of AEW and the fact that he's a legend anyway, that he doesn't need to stoop to that level to just play that same sort of game. Can just go, hey, I'm just not going to talk about AEW because I'm working for WWE now. I'm working for them now, but I don't need to reference anything that I did in AEW or to push down on them, or to just suggest that I'm going back to the big leagues and I'm done with the smaller company. And just go back and be Chris Jericho in WWE, because that's what the fans there want to see from you. So the fact that he's already doing these sort of things on his podcast is, it's disappointing, because he is was such a fundamental initial pillar in the evolution and the growth of AEW. His reputation and legacy was a great starting point for the company to build off of. And things soured over time when he just became too long in the tooth and just wasn't at the level that he used to be at. But I'd hope for better. But if that's the game that he wants to play, then I'm sure the paychecks will be worth it. And I assume he'll get pushed heavily, because that's what they do. They will push super old people to the top, as we've kind of always alluded to. So I'm sure he'll get a big WrestleMania match. I'm sure he'll get at least one, if not more, opportunities at the World Championship. And we'll see how things go. You can almost argue that considering what Triple H did with Punk in the first couple of years, in the first year that he was back, before now he's in the world title, main world title scene and everything surrounding that. What he plans on doing with Jericho, a guy that's at least from most discussions has never had the best relationship between Triple H and Jericho. So it'd be interesting to see how they play things out. But yeah. This is the clearest indication of anything that relationship's over. I mean, we've seen hints of it. We saw that no AEW wrestlers appearing on that his latest cruise. So Go back there, get your Hall of Fame induction, have 1 or 2 more years left on the road, and then retire with that company. So that's fine. As like that's I think he's earned the right to coast his way into retirement.
I mean, I agree, and I always thought there would be a place for Jericho back in WWE. I think my frustration with this quote, and in particular with Jericho, is and I know you're going to say it's just playing the game, and you're right, but I don't like when the comments are so egregious and negative. Like when he did AEW, I don't need the WWE Hall of Fame. Who even cares about that? There's no physical building. It's like, just don't make comments like that if you're gonna go back and take the.
Well, look at who he supports.
Well, yeah,
but
obviously,
psychology just speaks to, he's in the mindset of the. And yes, I know you're all probably sick and tired of hearing me talk about politics, but if you're a Trump supporter, you're a fucking moron. And that's why he speaks the way that he speaks, is because when he goes, we're going to do the best. It's all the best. Oh, we have the greatest everything. Everybody goes, see, he's got the best. Blah. I didn't vote for him to do the bad things that he said that he was going to do because I didn't fucking understand that that's what he was going to do. Jericho's got that kind of mentality. Look at how upset he could get over the word dabble. Wait,
what?
I've told the story before.
Yeah, about him dabbling in wrestling, yeah.
Dabbling in music. So, he is in that sort of, maybe he licked a bunch of lead paint in the past and he's part of that boomer generation side of things, that their mental decline's going down and he only thinks in absolutes and all. But, if you're going to be supporting a company in his mind, the way that he and a lot of those people think, it's like, well, fuck that company. I never need that company again. They're the worst in the world. And this is the best. We're the greatest at everything possible. And as soon as I shift gears, well, then I could just shift everything again. It's as quickly as you can get any kind of people that are going to be, watch what happens with this whole Epstein thing. You're going to get that wasn't the guy that I voted for and whatever and blah, blah, blah. They're all just fucking stupid. And he'll go whole hog on WWE is the best thing ever as soon as he starts signing with them. AEW will have been, there's nothing that was ever there for me. It was the worst thing that could have happened in my career and blah, blah, blah. Even though 2 months prior, he could have been like, yeah, it was great. Because they don't functionally work like, a rational human being would. It sounds like I'm like really shitting on Jericho, but it's like, that's that's how he come across with that kind of thing. And I hope that he proves me wrong, but he hasn't yet. And he's not the only person that's like that. Tons of people do that across the board. So if he's praising TNA and saying that they look like the number 2 company, and he might think that, but there's also a very, very good chance that he's choosing his words to be very much, I'm going to put everything into that basket now. And everything I said before doesn't matter. It's only what I say now. And if I contradict it in the future, then you shouldn't care about that either. To me, it holds like no value, what he says.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But speaking of some, older people in AEW that are no longer doing what they were doing in there, Jeff Jarrett is no longer the AEW manager of live events. He is just now apparently a wrestler, even though he's not really wrestling. I'm not too shocked about that, because how many live events have they been doing?
Yeah.
What's the point of the part of the company if you don't have that part of the company?
Would I assume like live events does that also count just general
I
TV
imagine it
shows
counts
as well?
TV, yeah.
In which case, yeah, he should get relieved for those duties, because AEW's been doing shit in terms of like attendances and crowds and stuff like that. I know that's not entirely on Jeff Jarrett, but surely as part of live events that would be involved, like the marketing and advertising of these events as well. So if he's supposed to be at the helm of that and their general attendance has been going down like year on year, then yeah, you should be fired for doing a bad job.
I don't know if that constitutes TV and pay-per-views or if it was just. I thought it was under the impression of that it was like non-televised stuff.
Would you just have one person involved, like, just for that side of things, especially if they don't do it very often? Surely it must be just any show that they go to. It's not like, it's not like the production side of things where in TV and sorting all that stuff out, but in terms of actually just, getting people through the gate, surely that must be what the live events guy is supposed to be, like, in charge of.
That's what it should be at the very least. Yeah. Because it's not like they run enough shows that, like, when WWE was doing Raw and SmackDown and then like 6 different house shows all the time and whatever, then you need some people like, okay, can you just do the house shows and we'll figure out the rest of it. But AEW doesn't do that. And I don't think that they should either. I don't think that that's, a problem. But to me, without knowing all the specifics, kind of feels like this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, probably they realized that this was like a redundancy that they didn't need. And then whatever happened to that Acclaim thing, by the way, with Jeff Jarrett?
He's on the board. They're making games. They're doing work.
Huh.
Nothing major pertaining to wrestling, but they recently did a little direct stream and they showed off some of the games they have. And I mean, yeah, it looks like a solid indie developer with a legacy game.
That Acclaim is an indie developer in that kind of state, should be a big name in that. We're talking about retirement of John Cena and all the other things. Chris Jericho leading towards his retirement and everything too, we would assume. Let's talk about Wrestle Kingdom before we get back into the AEW side of things. We know now who Hiroshi Tanahashi's final opponent's going to be, and it is Kazuchika Okada.
Yep. It was announced, so at the end of this, one of the more recent shows they've got coming up before the World Tag League starts, had Tanahashi out there, and then they dropped the classic Okada Rainmaker music. He came out with Gedo as his manager and came out to challenge Tanahashi for the Wrestle Kingdom. Will almost certainly now be the Wrestle Kingdom main event. I'd say it might not, on the surface for a lot of people, it might not be the most inspired choice because, it's a case of we've already seen, like, on Okada's way out of New Japan, I think his final singles match on his way out was against Tanahashi as well, so it will kind of somewhat be a rehash of that. And they've wrestled each other so many times before, but realistically, Okada is Tanahashi's greatest ever rival, so it does make thematic sense for that to be the final outing. I don't know how close anything's were or if anything was discussed with Shinsuke Nakamura. I think it's one of those things that, while I wouldn't be surprised if there had been, I also think that it's as likely that wrestling fans have just put that idea in their head because they assumed it could be a possibility rather than it actually being a real possibility. So, and that will leave some people disappointed just because of something that they imagine in their heads being better than what we're going to get. But Okada and Tanahashi know each other like the back of each other's hands. They can, so that he'll be able to have as much juice as Tanahashi's got left in the tank. Okada will be able to bring it out of him. And so, yeah, I think that it's probably the best option they could have in terms of match quality and just the story and the narrative surrounding it as well. And yeah, I think that will be, I think that in hindsight, it's the right choice to have as Tanahashi's final match.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Like, it's Okada Tanahashi. It feels weird to me that it'd be like if Cena's last match was with Orton. You announced, you did a whole thing about how Backlash is the last time they wrestle. But that aside, this is as good of a choice as you're going to get. Either him or Nakamura, just somebody who you can say, this is a name, put it on the marquee, and it's a fine match for Tanahashi to go out on. In this case, it's his greatest rival ever, who is still operating at a very high level. and it's a solid choice. It's just like, oh, maybe I would have expected a little more fanfare as far as like the actual announcement and stuff.
I'm not super invested in it, obviously, just as a non-New Japan, aficionado, but it makes sense. And like looking at the roster and knowing what little bits I know about certain people, yeah, I mean, like they weren't gonna have like Tanahashi against like Tomohiro Ishii be like, all right, that's it. Isn't he injured actually? By the way,
Yeah, he broke his collarbone, I think. Yeah.
Oh man. That's
so
perfect.
Well, I think one thing that is like slightly interesting about this as well. It was the comments that Okada gave in like an interview immediately after the fact, where he said that he did the Rainmaker like theme music and came out there, but he says that he's not coming back as he's not going to wrestle that match as like Rainmaker New Japan Classic Okada. He's going to come out with his AEW like presentation with his AEW entrance theme. He wants to be an AEW representative in this match rather than just play the hits one more time as New Japan Okada, which could disappoint some people. It could disappoint some people, but that's who he is right now. That's his character. So I don't see why he would like. I don't think that it serves anybody for him to just let's just go Classic Okada for one more match and then just go back to it. He should continue, especially with the relationship that AEW and New Japan have. Like, you can't just like turn it off for one thing because it's a completely different brand that you never interact with. It's like you do stuff with New Japan, so you should align with what he's doing in AEW. And also, realistically, he'll be defending the Unified Championship, or at least will be involved in the Continental Classic leading up to that as well, which usually culminates at World's End, which is only a few days before Wrestle Kingdom. So I wonder how much that will play into it. Will Okada still be champion going into that?
I also think, just to your point about it main eventing, Okada said straight up, like, it would be unfair to other people on the card to have to try to follow this moment. And I agree. I think Tanahashi's final match should be the headlining match, along with whatever speech he gives, unless they're just so determined to crown Tsuji and as the new ace of New Japan. Not that he's going to be called that, but you know what I mean.
That's like the passing of the torch kind of thing. Yeah. We got that going on, so we'll talk about more Wrestle Kingdom stuff over the course of the next few months. Let's talk about these trademarks that AEW have out there. AEW Fire, AEW Blitz, AEW Firestorm, and AEW Tidal Wave. Seems like they are locking down some potential ideas that this could be used for either pay-per-views or for TV shows, because the trademark filings are entertainment in the nature of wrestling contests, blah, blah, blah. So it speaks more to it being a TV show, distribution of ongoing television programs, etc., as opposed to it being like, a merchandise thing. I don't like them. They're too generic for me. Tidal Wave, like, it kind of feels like they asked ChatGPT, can you just give me generic words like this? Like AEW Fire, that's just fire. It's, that's bland as it could be. Blitz, I mean, I liked NFL Blitz back in the day. That was a good game.
I was gonna say, I think they're creating a football game, and I'm here for it.
That was a great game. Firestorm is a DC Comics character, so I don't know if there's going to be any kind of trademark issues when it comes to that, because that's not even like Fire Space Storm. It's just Firestorm.
Well, they got a partnership with DC. They're gonna cross over. I would also say these all are in the same range as Shockwave. So we got Firestorm, Shockwave, Tidal Wave, Shockwave,
Thunder.
It's looking like this will be just me guessing. Maybe they just want to lock in that syndication show name, whatever it may be.
It's so funny that in scenarios like that, you've got Rampage, and like I don't like the name Rampage, but you know, it is funny that like the way that businesses work and how like dumb everything is, that they would be like, well, we don't want to have you have Rampage because Rampage is already think we want a brand new thing, because if you name it something different, it's totally different. They're all the fucking same. You know, nobody realizes how simple it is.
I'm gonna actually agree with, you should probably create a new name rather than trying to revive something like a Rampage and saying, this is our big new project in syndication. It's Rampage that no one was watching. If you call it something new and you load up the first few episodes, people will tune in for a while, like WWE did with Main Event and Superstars and everything else.
But those are all names that they used before too.
Well, yeah, but they relaunched.
Yeah, so you could relaunch Rampage if long as you do important enough matches to where people need to tune in. Then you know. But there's you know the metrics of what people do. They want the, you know, well, we want our own shiny new thing. We don't want to be taking the spillover of what you did before and all. Like it's all fucking, you know, semantics.
We can do an old thing, but you have to wait until it becomes retro.
Yeah,
like, it's not like Superstars was only like Rampage only died like 2 years ago. Like it's not like Superstars that was a big thing in the 80s and 90s, and then they brought back in the 2010s. It's like you've got to wait until it becomes either either nostalgic enough to merit coming back as a thing, or you have to go with a new name. Otherwise, you're gonna have any negative connotations, because Rampage became quickly synonymous with being the C show, especially once Collision was formed. So giving it the same name makes you will just give the impression that this is a show that's not worth watching, or it's just a show that only the hardcore fans would watch and nobody else. You have to at least try and appeal to other people and say this is worth your time to go and see.
And it'll work for some people. They'll be like, hey, AEW Fire. Oh wow, that's going to be so different than Dynamite and Collision.
As long as the show's good, then it will work. But like, it depends on just people's time and capacity to watch more AEW's content. It needs to be unique enough from Collision and Dynamite to offer something different.
They can't get that ROH deal. It's been what, 3 years for that?
I guess the name ROH or the brand power of ROH just doesn't have the same cachet as AEW. I think maybe I don't know whether they have called out the idea of potentially just calling it AEW Ring of Honor instead.
I mean, they did. Tony had said it, what he said at the end of last year's Final Battle, and like people got upset that like, oh, you know, you're stripping away ROH. But the reality is maybe there's just more cachet in the AEW branding. Like I understand the issue, but also that's just how shit works sometimes.
They really should just call it that, because that's what it is. It's not like it would change anything about it. You know? It's like WWE is NXT. Like NXT is technically WWE NXT, same as it's WWE Raw and WWE SmackDown. It's not a separate company. Ring of Honor is not a separate company. Like, come on. Technically, it might be under like some kind of bullshit, but you know, not really. But let's go back and let's talk about the Dynamite episode that we had going on, since we already did everything else. And that was a 3-match card, but hey, that's what you get when 2 matches are as long as they are. You know, not at all surprising there. In between, there were some other little segments we'll talk about too, but they started off with the women's Blood and Guts match. Mercedes Moné, Marina Shafir, Megan Bain, and the Triangle of Madness beat Toni Storm, Willow Nightingale, Mina Shirakawa, Chris Statlander, Jamie Hayter, and Harley Cameron. In a match that I have seen people go absolutely nuts over, but I thought it was kind of botchy, and I liked parts of it and disliked other parts of it. And I don't think that this is like some absolute match of the year masterpiece by any means, but I don't think it was the worst thing I've ever seen. I thought that, you know, it's got the same problems as pretty much any match that's like this, where somebody's doing something and everybody else is sitting around doing nothing. And that's going to apply to War Games too. It's the same problem every time. Lots of people got bloodied up. I couldn't tell you almost any of the spots specifically. And I hate when this happens both in this match and the other match. And I'm sure that we'll get similar things in War Games. When you like pour what's supposed to be glass all over the place and everybody sells it for 2 seconds and then everybody rolls around on it and they act like it doesn't hurt anymore, that kills that element of it too. I don't dislike the ending of it, but I also think that this really didn't serve that much of a purpose. Mina Shirakawa's being beaten down and Toni Storm's being forced to watch, so she quits. You guys are going to be higher on it than I am, so feel free to praise it.
I want to praise like the individual performances. Like I think Sky Blue, slice it any way you want. About 50 minutes of
she sliced it pretty hard.
Yeah, about 50 minutes of her bleeding out and still continuing to go is impressive. Another check in the box for Mercedes. She took a nice table bump. I thought every woman here performed really well, and the ending of the match only makes me feel stronger that Toni and Mina are going to be in the finals of the tag tournament. I still think that you got a chance to load up Marina here, and Marina's like the most improved wrestler of the decade so far, and she should just be strapped up with whatever you can give her. So I liked it. It was a fun first match. 12 is too many. I think it was a bit long, but I thought it was a really fun match, and shout out to all the women who felt at the end of it like, holy shit, we got to do something really cool here.
Yeah, I thought the match was really, really good. I wouldn't go so far to say it was like excellent, and because there was botchiness, and I think it was too many people, so it kind of became a bit of a miasma towards the end. But I think that they all worked incredibly hard. You guys shout out to Sky Blue for that incredible blade job. Like she was bleeding buckets for the entire match, having like dried blood on her face by the end of it, because she'd been in there since the beginning and was bleeding from pretty much 2-3 minutes into the match. And like Winner Nightingale was great throughout as well, so maintaining her position there. Like you had, I think Hayter took some really sick bumps. So did Chris Statlander going into the bed of nails. That was a gnarly like incident with Marina kicking her in. Marina was great. I think Megan Bain was great as well. Other people just like were going in and out of things. I think that Mina and Toni weren't at the level. I think Mercedes pretty much dodged the entire match for the most part. Like she got in there for a little while and then took a table bump. She's probably the only woman who either didn't bleed or got any blood on her. So I think she maybe either didn't want to be involved as much or just they just wanted to tell other stories in the match instead, and her kind of side plot with Chris Statlander got pushed to the side. And yeah, I think that it helped establish a few things. I think it helped establish that Marina is a future world champion, at least challenger. I think that she'll probably challenge Chris Statlander after Mercedes. I think this made it very abundantly clear Mercedes didn't win the title at Full Gear, because Statlander's going to fight Marina at some point for the title. So I never got any indication after this one that Mercedes was going to be he's going to win the title. So, and I liked the finish of having like Mina getting caught up. Mina, who was also just like a late substitute because Queen Amanata got injured in the week leading up to this match, so she couldn't compete, and so they had a little bit of a segment of her chasing an equally injured Penelope Ford, who probably also would have been in this match, away. So at least they both got to have a little bit of a moment to be involved, even though they couldn't really do anything physically. But yeah, and them tying up Marina tying up Mina in the mother's milk hold, while after like stamping on broken glass with her bare foot, and then using that to stamp onto Mina's chest, and then like forcing her to tap out after Megan was beating the crap out of her with one of the title belts. That was quite a funny thing about having basically just introducing all of Mercedes' title belts as weapons to use in the match. and Tony having to give up to make sure that Mina couldn't be suffer any more punishment. So yeah, I think that it was good to have the heels win because it helped offset what would inevitably happen in the men's main event match. It sets up like Marina looks really strong coming out of it. Megan Bone looks really strong coming out of it, which is good because they're obviously having a match with Tony, and they probably will have a match with Tony and Mina in the semi-finals of the women's tag tournament. So it helps set that up even further. And yeah, I thought that overall it was a really fast-paced match. Yes, it was botchy. Yes, there were too many people, but it's a good starting foundation for them to do future women's blood and gut matches as well. I think they've got the formula kind of down, really, and I can't fault the effort for at least like most of the women that are in the match. Probably the only one I can fault the effort in is Mercedes, but it's just because she's doing a lot of other things around the world right now. She probably decided to use this match as a little bit of a breather because everyone else could carry the heavy lifting of the match instead. Also, thematic in this and in the men's match, tables didn't want to cooperate on this show.
Yeah, but I will say in that men's match, led to some gnarly bumps. There were some
because they had to just like go, oh fuck it, we have to put our whole body through this table if we're gonna get these to break.
Particularly if you're being tossed by Roderick Strong. He's just like, I'm going to throw you into the table, and if you land on your head and don't go through the table, oh well.
At least it's a cool visual. One thing I do want to say, an issue I took in both the men's and women's blood and guts matches. Why is the door just there for funsies? Like, lock them in the fucking thing. They just kept getting out of the cage.
I think, yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, I wouldn't have them getting out, but we know that they've set the precedent. Pretty much every single blood and guts match, someone has gone out and climbed onto the roof or done something on those lines. And the story they told in this one was that they got a lot of people on the outside, because at the end it was literally pretty much just Mina and Tony in there with all the other heels outside Mercedes just beating the shit out of them to get them to quit. So, and also because there were 12 people in the ring, just having 12 people in there and they would all be confined without anybody escaping, it would have been just even more of a mess than in some ways it was. So I think that they had to do it, even though it's not what my preferred thing is. Next time, no more than 5-on-5. That's the sweet spot. Don't add any more to it.
And I will just say, at a certain point, you should probably try to pull back on that to get the gimmick of like no escape more over. But that kind of always haunted WWE, where the biggest moment of Hell in a Cell is Mick Foley being thrown off the cell, and then when they stopped going outside the cage, people just felt like, oh, it's a letdown. So
yeah, it's not as fun anymore.
Yeah, you'll just always have that with blood and guts.
So backstage, Jack Perry and Luchasaurus get beaten up by the Don Callis family, and it's another sign of, well, the Young Bucks need to make a decision. Do they join the Don Callis family or not? Seems like next week they have to make that decision. So do you guys think it's going to be that they agree to do that, or that they just kill some more time, or that they somehow reject it?
The smartest thing to do here is to kill time, because you have a match 72 hours later where they need to team with a member of the Don Callis family against two former members of their elite and Luchasaurus. So you kill time, and then during a post-match beatdown on the pay-per-view, you have them save Kenny Omega and Jurassic Express.
Yeah, I assume you do some sort of instant where it looks like they're about to reject it, but then Jurassic Express come out to get their pound of flesh back, and the Bucks get caught in the crossfire of it, and so you end up having the match. But then once they lose, they decide to... Well, I don't know whether you do the full-fledged babyface turn there, or you just continue to marinate a little bit more going towards the end of the year.
Then they had a Falls Count Anywhere match. Hangman Adam Page beats Powerhouse Hobbs. Afterward, as we mentioned before, he says his match with Samoa Joe at Full Gear is going to be a steel cage match. If you, for some reason, have not had enough steel cage matches, and I don't see the point in them doing that. I think that you could have done... I don't think that they should have necessarily done the Samoa Joe feud to begin with, let alone to do a rematch of Samoa Joe, and then on top of that be like, well, the gimmick we're going to do is the gimmick that we're doing with everything else. I think that maybe you could have done something else instead, but maybe Tony Khan's just hyperfixating on steel cages right now or something. I don't know.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total thematic sense. It's like the whole story is Joe has two guys that could help beat up Hangman Page, so put him in a steel cage where the other two can't interfere, at least in theory.
The only problem is that they're doing blood and guts right now, so you feel like you're overloaded.
Right.
But,
yeah, they could have him banned from ringside.
I think that like they needed some kind of gimmick though, because they just did a standard one-on-one. I wouldn't have wanted to see a rehash of a standard one-on-one, just because while that happens sometimes, it's a too WWE thing for me, and I would want to see something with a little more flair, and a cage match will be that. I do want to point out that Fightful Select has just reported that MJF will likely be back sooner than later, and I'm thinking as soon as Full Gear.
I will say with this Full Scania match, I might be like completely in the minority side. I think this was the best match on the show.
I mean,
I thought these two absolutely killed it. I thought Hobbs was fantastic in this match, like just absolutely bodying Page all over the ring, like just slamming onto guardrails and steel steps and taking that ridiculous bump on his like coccyx pretty much off of the announce table. I just thought, oh my god, you like break your back doing that. And then the ending spot of Hangman using his boot to knock him off the staging and falling into all of that electrical equipment. They set the lights up and down to just indicate it as well. But I thought this, like bell to bell, I thought this was the best match on the entire show. And it makes me go, yeah, Hobbs should be the guy that challenges Page for the title at World's End. I don't care if he lost this match here. You having come back from the hospital afterwards, and he's like literally out to kill Hangman Page, and you do another big, even if where it's Texas Death, whether it's some other gimmick match, you do one final blow off between these two for the title on the line, because I think they showed that they could do something special in the main event, and yeah, it makes sense. Like they decided to try and trap. They basically use the blood and guts cages to their advantage by trying to trap Page in the cages, and then Hook and Eddie Kingston helping chase them off, and Page just used the opportunity of like, oh, if you wanted to get me in a cage, all you had to do was ask, so we'll have a cage match instead. You can leave Shibata in the back, leave Hobbs in the hospital, and I'm here to kick, and I'm going to kick your ass and defend my title. So I think it's fine. I think it's a different dynamic when it's 1-on-1 compared to these 5-on-5 or 6-on-6 like War Games double ring matches. So it's still a steel cage, but I think that it's totally fine. The only reason that certain fans be burnt out on it is because you also have War Games in between it as well. But AEW shouldn't concern themselves with what WWE is doing.
I think sadly that's why they had War Game Blood and Guts at this time of year, but I do agree with you in principle.
Then we had this, I think, completely pointless segment. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and they had advertised that Ric Flair was going to be in there because I guess Tony Khan didn't learn his lesson about having an association with Ric Flair. But Flair didn't come out because of an injury or health issues or something. I don't know. Ricky Steamboat comes out. Tony Schiavone's just like, hey, it's great to have Ricky Steamboat here. And he's like, let me tell you a story. And it's like, man, it's 9:30. We haven't even had any entrances for Blood and Guts yet. Like, come on. And Steamboat starts talking, doing his thing. FTR comes out. They start talking some trash, and they start going on the attack, and Bernardino make the save. This didn't need to be on here. This should have been on Collision.
Well, you're basically saying that as if like it should be on Collision because you don't.
I don't think it should have been on Collision either, but I think that this killed some of the momentum of everything too.
I think it slowed things down. I think that they just dragged it on way too long. I think you could have just done it in like 5-10 minutes and not have to stretch things out as long as they did. But they're trying to add some like more to the tag title match than just FTR wins a tournament and gets a title shot. It should be just like, okay, we want to add some actual animosity between those two. But yeah, I thought that this kind of slowed the momentum of it going into the final Blood and Guts match.
Yeah, I agree. I like Ricky Steamboat. I think it meant a lot to them to do the angle, but it just sort of felt like, man, tonight's running long, and we know how long we've got to go already with this blood and guts. So get to the point. Also, I know Stokely's meant to be this way, but like, it was so weird to just be like, "We want a real star. Do you got Macho Man's number?" Uh, no, I don't think Ricky Steamboat does have Macho Man's number. He's dead. Like, it was just it was a weird thing because they didn't even call attention to it. It was just like, okay, he said that, and anyway, here's the rest of the segment. Very strange moment.
So that led into the men's blood and guts match, and Darby Allin and the conglomeration by proxy, Roderick Strong's not really a part of it, but kind of. But you got Roderick Strong, Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, and Kyle O'Reilly beat the Death Riders, even though Gabe Kidd tries to help out a little bit, and it all, Mark Briscoe's taken out by the Don Callis family ahead of time, and I'm thinking, okay, that's a good enough way for them to justify why the advantage went to the baby faces if they still end up losing or something. But Briscoe comes out, he has a whole thing with Wheeler Yuta at the top of the cage, and at the grand scheme of things, it all ends with Kyle O'Reilly making Jon Moxley tap out the ankle lock. I thought it was a better match between them. I still don't quite understand the goal, but
Well, I mean, I think the
goal is that
obvious.
Moxley's a little bitch.
Yeah, that Moxley just keeps quitting and giving up. So that's the kind of overall story. The overall story is the dissolution of Death Riders, or at least Moxley's being forced abdication of the leadership of the role, basically because he just can't withstand it anymore, and his body's giving up on him, or his spirit is giving up on him. But I thought this match was worse than the women's match. I think that it was more boring. It was slower. I think that there were some good spots, but I thought it was just a bit stale, especially with the whole Briscoe not being able to get out. I thought that kind of killed momentum of the match a little bit, and it just felt they were hanging around a little while until Briscoe would finally come out. So it was more it felt like maybe a more traditional War Games / Blood and Guts match, but I thought that it wasn't as frenetic or engaging as the women's one, and maybe that's just due to the fact that it was also the second one on the show. But there were some cool things like stapling Orange Cassidy's hands in his pockets, Moxley coming out with a fork and just literally just causing everyone to bleed all over the place, slamming people through tables eventually on the second or third attempt. And so I thought that there were some good moments throughout the match, but and then eventually Pac body pressing Darby off of the stage through a flaming table was probably the big eye-opening moment of the match. But the whole thing was built perfectly around this Kyle O'Reilly and Jon Moxley story they've been telling for the last couple of weeks, which is O'Reilly has come close and probably should have beaten Moxley twice already, and then they eventually decide to go, okay, they've built this entire thing, which I assumed from the start was going to be, or at least from last week when they announced this match, or 2 weeks ago when they announced that it was going to end with O'Reilly forcing Moxley to tap out. And they tease it a little bit with him getting into the ankle lock, and then Moxley managing to pull him back into the Bulldog choke, but then O'Reilly reverses that back into the ankle lock, ties in the grapevine, Moxley's crawling around in broken glass in the middle of the ring. And eventually, he just has to give up, and it's a big boost for O'Reilly. It feels like he's really being pushed to another level at this point, which is good to see. I think that he's already a solid favourite for me to be the first ever national champion. So I think that's probably the goal of this, is to help him raise up to that level. Or, a potential favourite to win the Continental Classic, whatever route they decide to take with him. But he's probably winning something, or at least being pushed to a level where he fights for the top title, even if it's in a losing effort. But the overall story is that Moxley has given up 3 times in a row now to Hangman, to Darby, and now to Kyle O'Reilly in this match. And so he's going to get kicked out of the group. And I guess the big question is now, who is the one that gives the order to cut him loose? Is it? I think it's down to three choices. It's either Claudio, because that feels like the most natural fit. He seems like the second in command, so it seems natural he takes over. It's Marina, because they want to build around her as the silent killer that's been behind Moxley, and so if she's the one that turns her back on him, then it's really like, okay, he's done. And she's also, I think, being positioned for a potential women's world championship run, so that would help feed into that narrative. Or the one that I think that makes the absolute most sense is Wheeler Yuta, because he's been the whipping boy that's been thrown to the walls by Moxley over and over and over again. So he should be the guy that, ties that plastic bag over his head and forces him out of it and assumes his position as the leader of the group instead. But either way, we know that that's the route they're going. It's just how they decide to play it out is the question.
I can see Wheeler doing the deed, but I think it's Marina's call. And I think we need to get there sooner rather than later. Maybe next week, maybe even at the pay-per-view or something. But I think we need to get there now because Moxley's never looked as weak, and you've got the moment to tell a really cool story. As a Kyle O'Reilly mark, I loved the ending of this match. I love that Kyle O'Reilly looks like a fucking star. I was scared for a minute that it was going to be like, is Roddy going to turn on them and join his wife? But I'm glad that they just did their thing. Kyle looks like an absolute badass. He could be in line. I'm not saying they're going to make him world champion right now, but he could be in line for like a Samoa Joe type of world title run where when Joe won the title, it was kind of a surprise and kind of a nice little, here's your gold watch world title. And I think Kyle O'Reilly is that good, and I'd love to see him get that. I definitely think he could be national champion, at least. The only thing I didn't like was how isolated Darby was from this finish, where, he seemed like the guy who wanted so badly to drive the stake through the heart of the Death Riders, and it wasn't even him. It wasn't even Hangman. It was Kyle O'Reilly gets it here. But now we're getting to a point where don't put Moxley in a submission. He will tap very quickly. Or there might need to be glass, or he might need to be hanged from a chain. But he's not good in positions where he needs to try and survive a submission hold.
It's a pretty wide range of an Achilles heel. It's like any kind of thing to have for him to tap out. And he's just kind of like, put him in a sleeper hold. He immediately falls asleep. Well, new gimmick going forward. He has zero ability to fight against any kind of submission moves.
It's now like this overall culmination of like throughout the story they've told is that Moxley feels invincible when he's got his Death Riders around him, and they're there to help him bail him out of situations and give him an edge. And that made him an invincible world champion for a while. And now, after losing the title to Hangman and that being the first real chink in the armor, everything's just spiraled for Moxley. And it's now got to the point where, he just now feels as vulnerable as he has ever felt, probably since joining AEW. But that's entirely by design. And Death Riders isn't over, it's just his part in it is done, and now it's time to move on to the next chapter of that story.
I hope that if they kick him out, I hope that they rename the group. Just because it's weird to me that the Vision is still the Vision without the Visionary, and Death Riders being like, he hit the Death Rider move, and
they have the Oracle. They don't need the Visionary.
Well, that's the overall landscape of our hot tags for this week. So, of course, let us know what you guys have to say about all these kind of things in the comments section below, and make sure that you are chiming in about anything else that you want to talk about too. In case, that we missed something, then leave that comment. We'll try to respond in some fashion. Keep in mind too that the next lineup of everything that we got going your way, I am not going to be doing a post show for Full Gear, but we'll be doing our predictions for it next week. We do have Survivor Series coming up after that. Then we got NXT Deadline, and then we got Saturday night's main event. Then we have like a short time window for the end of the year awards, and then we got World's End. Like, it's really just, that's it. That's what we got. Pay-per-views out the ass for the next couple of weeks. And in the meantime, if you do want us to do some other kind of thing like that, the Pick a Poison tier is the best way to make sure that we do that. There will be at least one other dark cast in the meantime, and that could be all sorts of different other things and stuff. Maybe we'll do 2, maybe we'll do 3. It kind of all depends on our schedule about everything, but the more people that sign up for the Darkcast tier, the more incentive there is to provide more content for that. And when you show your support across all the different things that you can, the link tree is the best way for you to find all those links. So go to amangotree.com or anthonymango.com, and you will find everything from Smart Out Moment to Fanboys Anonymous to my Tony Mango stuff. And after following all that stuff, make sure that you are following what Rob and Callum are up to as well.
Yep. For now, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice, and that's about it. But I always appreciate the support.
You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wigmeister14. Check out the power rankings every Saturday over on Smart Out Moment, on the Smart Out Moment website, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. And then check out the I said the power rankings, Fantasy League. That's the other thing that I do. Fantasy League, also at www.fantasyleague.com, where you can see how all of the wrestlers in our rosters are picking up points as we head towards Survivor Series, which is the next big show, where we'll both do our predictions, which will influence that, and also where some big points we picked up, because a lot of bonuses for the winning team either War Games matches.
And that's going to do us in for this episode. So, as always, as I said, leave your comments below and keep the discussion going. And we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smart Out Moment, and we are being counted out.